What is courage? That's what we're going to answer in this edition of Dr. Todd Explains. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Todd, and I've been thinking through the concept of courage over the last few days. I've watched some of my students struggle with getting things turned in as far as classwork goes. I've also been reading a book called The Wisdom of Psychopaths by Keith Dutton. In that book, Dutton makes the argument that psychopaths have certain traits that can be pro-social. Not every psychopath, according to Dutton, is the serial killer, antisocial personality disordered person who belongs in prison. And as I was thinking through that, it seems that there's a very fine line between hero and psychopath. If you think of personality, when you look at these individuals, as a soundboard in a church, where they've got all the knobs, the serial killer, antisocial personality disorder person has all of the dials turned up to the top of the board. Heroes have some of the dials turned up, but some of the dials related to things like Machiavellianism, which is that innate desire to manipulate people, take advantage of people, impulsivity, narcissism, those kind of knobs, those are way down on the hero scale. So there's a fine line between a hero and a psychopath. Like I said, they share some common characteristics: immunity from anxiety, depression, and ability to focus. And that's really where I want to that's where I really want to land on this video. What is courage? Well, based on some of this initial thinking, I want you to think this through with me. Based on this initial thinking, courage is simply this. Courage is the skill to focus on the task at hand. I'll say that again. Courage is the skill to focus on the task at hand. When you listen to individuals who've done something truly heroic, most of the time, what you'll get when you see the interview is simply this: I was just doing my job. This reminds me a little bit of King David as a young boy in the encounter with Goliath the giant. Now, I understand the larger exegetical picture here is answering the question, will God keep his covenant with Israel? And it seems like at those long odds, would he or would he not? So I understand that. But when you look down on a personality level, David demonstrates hero characteristics which have, in some ways, have a association with psychopathic traits too. In that David, of course, was offended that this Philistine, not Palestinian, but a Philistine pagan would be making fun of the God of Israel. But what David did was David thought something needed to be done about that situation. So what you find in that preparation is that although Saul tried to give him his armor and all this kind of stuff, David fell back on his training. David, who was a shepherd, understood the need for movement, because when he would be protecting his flock, often in those areas you have things like wolves, pack animals that would come to try to steal the sheep. Well, if that happens, you need to be able to counter that attack. And so what you see David doing is David got rid of all of Saul's armor and everything, and he went to his slingshot, and he got 5 smooth stones. There's been a lot of discussion about, what's the significance of the 5 smooth stones? What I think it is don't overthink this. I think David was falling back on his training. He knew, for instance, if a pack of wolves showed up, he was going to need more than one. So he just naturally, without even thinking, assembled what he needed. And the most telling line in the whole narrative for me is, it says, when the giant comes out, David ran quickly to meet him. And I think that's that line of what a hero is. David was focused on one task, and that was slaying the giant. And so when you look at this in other applications, people who tend to perform well and demonstrate what we would call courage, at least looking at it from the outside, have the ability, the skill, they develop the skill to focus in on what needs to be done next. And so they don't worry. Everything else is noise to them. They stay solely focused in on what they're trying to do. Now, in a psychopathological way, a psychopath can predict, there have been studies that show psychopaths can predict people who have been victimized just by watching a video of how they walk. And so where a psychopath uses those skills for bad, the hero uses them for good. So if you want to be a hero, it's really simpler than you think. Focus on learning how to focus. Whatever that takes for you to do, learn how to focus. When I look at today's students, though, because of many of them, this is the first or second generation now that's grown up with screens all the time. They have a really hard time focusing, which then leaves them susceptible to depression and anxiety. So whatever you need to do, if it's unplug, if it's go in small steps to build up your stamina, if you want to be courageous, develop your ability to focus. If you do, you will be courageous. Well, I hope that this was helpful. I don't know how you would define courage, but if you have an alternative definition or just some thoughts on what I've said in this video, please leave them in the comment section. I'd love to interact with you because I haven't thought this all the way through. It's just some things that have stood out to me as I was going through Dutton's book about what is redeemable in the book. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like buttons if you like the work that I'm doing here. God bless. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.